Okay, so we talked 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got faith, social interaction, community, relationships.
Finding your purpose.
Finding your purpose, number 3.
Living it out.
And, right. And living and getting after it, right? All right. Now 4 is the physical, moving your body with intentionality, and really, I love how we're putting a focus around that. So, okay, so number 5.
Yep. Number 5, diet and sleep.
Diet and sleep, yeah.
Yep. And so, like I mentioned in my first episode of depression, even the most recent one, interruptions in your sleep patterns is a big indication to it. And that's not a symptom only related to depression. I mean, right. There can be other things going on, but in combination with those other symptoms, your sleep is a big indicator. And so I can't attest to how important I'll use the word protecting your sleep is.
Yeah.
And I started, when you're desperate to find answers, you start researching, right? And so, I was more in the most recent episode when I struggled with depression. I started looking at podcasts and reading online. And one of the guys I came across who was pretty helpful, he's a neuroscientist. His name's Andrew Huberman.
Okay.
And he did this episode with a guy named Matthew Walker, who's like the world-renowned sleep expert.
Okay.
I learned when I was listening to those episodes, I learned so much about what's actually happening when you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. Memories are being stored. Your brain is actually healing itself. There's so much activity that's actually going on while you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. You look at REM sleep and your mind is repairing itself. Your body is repairing itself when you sleep.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. And so, how do you protect that? And how do you actually give yourself the best chance to get a good night's rest? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things when I was powerlifting and I was putting too much focus into my work and job, I was getting home really late, eating and getting a shower. And then it was like 9:15. I didn't have a good wind down routine. So now I'm focusing a lot more on I'm leaving work a lot earlier, creating a lot of efficiencies at my job, and getting home at a much earlier time, eating and winding down.
There you
go. From about 7:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. when I go to bed. And so that's been huge. You got to wind your body down,
there
I think.
Go.
And then you've got to, these things matter too. There's something called melatonin, which everybody's familiar with, and people try to take supplements, for that. And actually Andrew and Matthew talked about, there's been a lot of studies that show these supplements don't even really help. Melatonin is naturally produced in your body, and with like your circadian rhythm and biological clock, it starts to release at a certain time. But one of the biggest factors of when that starts to release is when your body senses that the light around you is getting darker and dimmer, and it knows, okay, now it's time to release this, and it promotes the feeling of sleepiness. And so one of the things I do is get off my phone, or at least turn on the blue. It takes away the blue light. There's settings in the iPhone. You can do that. But mainly just get off of it around.
Yeah, I would just do that. I don't know about settings on it, but if you turn it over,
exactly. You don't need to be on it. I mean, there's no good reason. Most people are scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
Big reason why a lot of the kids are having sleep issues nowadays is they're glued to their phone and iPad, through 11, 12 o'clock. Like, just get off of it. And start to turn all the lights in your house down. And, don't do activities in your bedroom. Don't be, reading is okay maybe, but don't be watching TV, because your brain is saying when you go to your bed, this is for sleeping, and that's what it should only be for. And these are all little things, but they all matter. Yeah, in terms of protecting your sleep and giving yourself the best night. And exercise is going to help in that area. Exercise, is going to promote good sleep as well. And so these are just some of the things I think to promote a good night's sleep. And so sleep is critical. I can feel the days where I don't get that full 7 or 8 hours in my mood. And so much happens with you when you're sleeping.
One thing you said too, when you were starting to work a lot and had kind of gotten away from it. I mean, sometimes you got to put a stake in the ground, right? And go, hang on, something's not right. Like, I'm out of balance. Yeah. This is not working. I've got to change. I've got to make a change. I've got to do something different, and not just keep going with the flow. Well, but I'm working hard. Well, that's just what I got to do. Blah blah blah. I mean, you can justify that all day long. Right. And it can lead you right down to a path that you don't want to be in. Right. And I'm not saying that's everybody's story, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you got to give the excuses up, right? And if you really want to make a change, you really want to feel better, you got to do something a little bit different. It's going to take discipline and accountability.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things Season Builder, or I brought out of Season Builder. I think the greatest impact of Season Builder is not while you're in it. It's after the fact. Once you start, you've been equipped, and then you start to go live out the action steps you created and principles. Right. And so, going back to the balance in life, I think life is all about the priorities. And so a lot of people hear that say, I've been busy, man. I don't have time. I just didn't have time. Well, no, you didn't create the time for that thing. And so for me, I wasn't creating the time to commit to the gym, to be in there 4 days a week, to create the time to wind down so that I can get better sleep at night, or creating the time in the morning to spend time with God.
There you go.
It's because I was putting too much value and priority into my job, honestly, into work. And so
I run that one back. Run that one back and listen to what he just said about 3 or 4 times.
Yes. Again, I was putting too much value and worth and honestly identity into the work I do. And the work you do is not who you are. It's not your identity. But maybe stop and pause for a second. Why was I doing that? I have big dreams. I have a desire to grow a business, but it probably boiled down to the desire to make more money and to greed and to build this thing. And the thing I'm doing is not in itself bad and helping people steward their money well. But the reason I was working more is more of greed and a desire to build something to benefit me, and not balancing it out and putting more focus into these other areas of life that I was neglecting.
Right.
And so, I just, first of all, to solve that problem, I said, okay, I need to make my business more efficient, and I need to leverage technology, and I need to get systems and processes in place where I can use my time in the office more productively, more efficiently. Started building processes for financial planning and investment management, and just making the time I spend in the office more productive. So honestly, I was working more hours, but I was wasting a lot of time, playing office, and just it just wasn't productive. So that was the biggest thing. Like, you ask yourself in your own life and the work you do. Some of you guys and gals out there might be working too much, and so can you make your day more efficient? Odds are you're wasting time throughout the day.
There's no doubt.
That was a big thing for me, is doing that. And so now I can actually leave the office at 4:45 and be at the gym by 5. And also getting my day started earlier as well helps. And then put more focus into working out and to exercising, and then winding down, and even getting to do more activities in the evening. So recently I led a group of high school kids through the Dave Ramsey High School Financial Curriculum. So it was one of that gave me just a lot of, it helped me grow a lot. It was very fulfilling, but I created the time to do that by having a better balance. So, and on the weekend too, I would work on Saturdays for the first couple of years of my career. And, I really just don't do that hardly anymore. And so I'm getting my work done throughout the week. Having the opportunity to spend more time with my family, with my girlfriend. We do a lot of things together. And so, that's been big. And then creating the time for God and spending time with Him in the morning. And so getting a better night's sleep is going to help me get up earlier, help me get up at 6:15, and get to my office. I have a home office now, which is great. Shrinking down the amount of time I was working and creating the time for those other areas of life has just given me a better life, honestly.
And a choice you made has given you a better life. Choice with multiple choices, but
I chose
you went and you reprioritized, you revalued. To speak financial terms, you had a valuation. Your valuation was out of whack, maybe. I don't know.
Reprioritize, revalue, the things that matter in life, and then going and putting actions to those things.
That's great. Okay, so we talk. I just love to recap them because you're listening to it. Okay, faith. Relationship with Jesus is super important. Number one. Number 2 was social interactions, community, relationships. That was number Number two. Number three was purpose, discovering that, no, first of all, acknowledging you have a purpose,
Right.
and go discover what those gifts are and how you can apply those.
Right.
That's great. Number four was physical activity and exercise, right. And yeah, let's even say that. The more intentional, having a plan, that
it takes a plan.
It takes a plan, right? You can't just go, hey, I'm going to go walk 3 days a week, and maybe, I hope, but if I got something to do Thursday, I won't, right? That's not going to work. Okay, so the physical activity, intentional exercise, and even when you're leaning toward with a purpose to enhance your mental health, the intensity. You mentioned that was a word you kept using as you were describing it. Was intensity, and then number five was a diet and sleep. Loved all your information about sleep. Okay, what's the sixth one? What's the last one?
Sixth one is medication.
Okay, that's right. It played a part. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll touch on diet too a little bit on this one.
Okay.
First of all, don't be ashamed to take medication for these conditions: anxiety, depression, eating disorders, schizophrenia. These are all mental health conditions. Depression, anxiety tend to be the most common ones. But don't be too prideful or too afraid to take these medications because they help. I'm telling you. Now, there's been cases where they don't help some people, but in my own situation, they've helped me. And so, going back to the original episode, actually, and give yourself some grace as you figure out, what's the right medication for me.
What works for you.
It takes, honestly, it can take time because there's a lot of these medications on the market, and based on your unique brain chemistry, some may not help you. And that was my story. Some didn't help me. And I finally found the right psychiatrist and finally found the right medication. And really, it was a combination that actually helped me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not a coincidence. These medications take 10 to 12 weeks to actually start going through the reuptake inhibitor process to work on your chemicals and replenish the levels and balance them back out. And so, and it's not a coincidence. I started these medications in the prior episode, the most recent episode, the timelines actually kind of line up. So I found the medication in my first episode, like November of 18, and sure enough, about 12 weeks later, I really started to feel benefits. I started to feel better. And then this most recent episode, I actually started on medication in November of 2023, and I started to feel better really in end of January or so of 2024. And so I'll back up too. Honestly, the second episode, I was being too prideful to go and seek out medical help. And so my best friend, one of my best friends, Cody Elbert, actually said, "Hey man, and this was honestly like, Proverbs talks about wise counsel and biblical wisdom. This was that. And he said, "Hey man, let's be wise about this. Like, go see your psychiatrist, and it can't hurt you. It can't hurt. Like, something's going on here with your brain and your mental health. Like, go see him." And so I took his advice and went to see my psychiatrist. And sure enough, my psychiatrist said, "Hey, I recommend you take medication again." And so I actually started the exact same antidepressant medication that I took back in 2018 and 19. And, I was, again, just pride, man. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to depend on this.
Right.
This is not, biblical, which that's a lie, honestly. God created doctors who created the medications. And so I actually prayed about it. I stopped and I said, "Lord, what do you want me to do in terms of taking medication?" And so I felt like he was leading me down that path. And I really believe he was. I feel like he spoke to me and said, I created doctors who created these medications to help people and correct the chemical imbalances in their brain. And so, the fact that Cody said to go see a doctor, my psychiatrist is firmly recommending it. Wasn't a choice, really. He was firmly recommending it. I felt like that was the confirmation I needed to start back on it. And I'm very thankful I did now. And I'm seeing the benefits of that.
Yeah.
And it really has helped. And so, don't be too prideful. Don't be ashamed to be on these medications. A lot of people out there are taking them.
Yeah.
Former NFL players, a lot of people that you wouldn't think are taking them. Just don't be ashamed. Like these medications can't help, and you don't have to be on them forever.
Right.
They help you for a time, and then there's a process to actually wind down or wean down off of them. And it's not the only tool in your toolbox. I truly believe a holistic approach to improving your mental health. This is not the only thing. And some people only try to rely on medication, and it's not. It's just one of the tools. It's not going to help you if you just rely on that thing.
Right.
It's one of the things that can help you, but it's not the only thing.
And I don't know if it's 6 on purpose. I would say getting those other 5 things, getting those rolling. But as you go into looking at number 6 with the medication, that, like you said, you can't skip steps. Like let's don't try to skip 5 steps and just say, well, I'll just take a pill and that'll make me feel better.
No.
I mean, there were definitely some difficult times during this second episode, but I talk a little bit about, if I'm characterizing this correctly, some frustration, anger. I don't know whether the emotions, but you're like, I thought I kicked this thing's butt already.
Yeah.
I thought this was over. I thought this was done. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, when this set back in, like I said, the second episode around August of 2023, there really wasn't a strong reason for why it happened.
Yeah.
Things were going pretty well in my life, and I really don't have an explanation as to why.
Right.
And one of the big things we talked about during our meeting time is, stop trying to figure that out. Just accept it. But I got to a point where I accepted it and said, hey, how am I going to get better?
That's right.
And then, but another emotion I was feeling at that time was fear. And
yeah, that's
I
right.
remember the first time I revealed to you, Taylor, that I'm struggling again. I was like, I'm scared, man. Like, this is really setting back in, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome it again. Is this a lifelong thing? Is this chronic? Like, all these thoughts start to spiral in your head. And when you are depressed, you really feel like, because again, you're thinking irrationally,
Right, starting up,
but you really feel like you can't change how you're feeling, and you feel trapped. And that's one of the, and it's a real feeling.
Yeah.
I have to acknowledge that. And when you feel trapped, like you can't change your circumstance, the emotions of fear and anxiety set in. And so, but again, that's a lie. And so I think the devil will try to capitalize when your mind is in a vulnerable place. And I think, for sure he did in my circumstance, and try to capitalize on how you're feeling, and you're more vulnerable. And so, all the emotions, frustration, fear, just not knowing what's going to happen, fear of being judged, and all those things. But one of the principles that I chose, calm, was one of my box tops, was pain is temporary.
That's right.
And so that's a truth. In God's word, he says his will is healing. He wants to heal you. One of his names is Jehovah Rapha, which means God of healing. So he wants to heal you. And especially if you come to him and pray and ask for healing. And look, that's not, in physical conditions, that's not always ending in physical healing here on earth. And it could be in death and him taking away your suffering. And that's one of the things people struggle with, is like, why does bad things happen? But I just want to point that out, is it's not always physical healing in your body, but his will is to heal you. And so once I lean back into that truth, that's one of the things I needed, is just to remind myself that he wants to heal me. And so, and then one of the biggest things in Season Builder we talk about is transforming your mind, thinking patterns. Yeah, because thoughts lead to feelings, which lead to actions. You have to renew the way you think. The Bible talks a lot about renewing your mind. It literally means to change your mind, to change the way you think, to actually create new thoughts. That's what the word means in the Greek. And so you have to change the way you think. And so one of the big things in me coming out of this recent episode was literally putting new, fresh truth back into my mind,
Yeah.
and replacing the irrational thinking, the lies that were going on during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think you would probably agree with this. When you start slipping into that and start getting a little irrational, it's hard for you to come up with these things, right? It's hard for you to just take your own initiative. You need somebody with you.
Right, exactly.
And professional help, clinical help, psychiatrist. I mean, you even asked me, you said, should I go to my psychiatrist? I said, yes. Yes. Should I think? Yeah, you should do that, right? But I think there is something to, going back to point number 2, the friendships and the community of people that love you and know you, that can speak that into you, that can help lead you in those ways. And that just can be such a catalyst for healing.
Yeah, all these pillars kind of work together. Catching on to the theme. So
that's right. I think that was one of the things that I reminded you when the fear started to set in, or when things weren't getting better right away, right?
Yeah.
It was like, I kept reminding you, you have the tools. You know the way out. Trust it.
And because we had evidence of you already overcoming it 6 years ago. And that's evidence. And so, look back. That's another encouragement. If you're struggling in this area mentally, or really any area that you struggled with in the past, look back at the evidence that, hey, you've overcome this thing in the past, whether it be fear, doubt, anxiety, fear of man or opinion of others, whatever that thing is that you're trying to work through. Remember how God has brought you through in the past, and He wants to do it again. Just don't forget the evidence.
Don't forget the evidence.
It's strong. Yeah, and Taylor reminded me of that through our time together. So that was
even part of your journaling time too. Write down the evidence. Write it down. I mean, that was literally something that you did. A lot on this podcast. The idea of mental training comes up, a lot in athletics, and, we always talk about mental training. And the point I want to make again, don't overcomplicate it, right? It's the simple things of writing down, remembering when you overcame it, writing down these truths, pain is temporary, sticking it on a sticky note in your house, or, just reminding yourself of it and making sure you carve out time. All of your pillars, they all work together. Don't overcomplicate it, but be intentional and be consistent.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And the more, there's a great book by Craig Groeschel called Winning the War in Your Mind. And so actually listened to that book on Audible, and he has a lot of actual health medical research in there that talks about what's happening in your brain and thinking patterns. And there's actually neural pathways created in your brain when you repeat certain thoughts over and over and over. And then you call it ruminating or chewing the cud. It's the process of what a cow does when they chew grass, spit it out, and then, swallow it up, and then chew it again, swallow it, chew it again. And so when you're doing that with these negative thoughts in your mind, you're creating these neural pathways in your brain, and then you think them so much that you actually start to believe them.
Yeah.
And that's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And
so let's reverse that process.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start renewing our mind, putting positive thoughts in there, and writing them down, journaling, getting in the Word of God, looking at what God says about who you are, letting other people speak into your life and tell you who you are, and seek wisdom out. And so you've got to flip the script and start putting truths in your mind and creating literally new neural pathways in your brain, and understanding, speaking life over yourself and who you are, knowing who you are. So everything starts in the mind.
That's right. Well, man, this has been awesome. I have been so looking forward to you not only sharing these, just to be able to sit down and explain and talk through them. I think this is just going to be so helpful. One more time.
Yep.
And I want to say them because I want to learn them myself, So the first one is faith. You're really leaning in your relationship with Jesus.
Yep.
The second one is relationship, staying connected with people and having people that you can really share non-judgmentally, trust willingly.
Real relationships.
Real
We have a lot of
relationships.
surface level relationships in our lives, but I'm talking real. Again, you can share anything with this person. Go beyond the surface level conversations.
Yeah.
So you need that in your life. You need 2, 3, 4, 5 of those people in your life.
Okay. Real relationships. Third one was purpose, discovering your purpose. The fourth one was exercise, intentional exercise, discipline, accountable, and even being mental health wise, intense workout. Then we talked about that. The fifth one was diet and sleep. I think sleep is so underestimated. Okay, diet and sleep. And then finally, the sixth one is the appropriate medication. And obviously going through the proper channels, the proper doctors that can understand you, test you, and to remember that it takes a minute. Don't take it tomorrow and wake up the next day, you're not feeling better and be all mad about it, right? It takes some time. So those are the 6. What is one parting shot? What is one last encouragement that you would have for someone that's maybe listening to this podcast, watching it online, that has struggled with depression, or maybe they think they may be depressed? How would you encourage them right now?
Love that question. The number one thing I would say is there is hope, and your situation and your circumstance can change. And so my biggest struggle when I was in the depression was the fear and the anxiety that I'm trapped. This feeling, this condition, this disease can't change, and I'm stuck here forever. And that's what leads people to die by suicide, is because they lose that hope and they truly believe the lie that they can't.
There's no way out.
There's no way out, yes. And that's a lie from the pit of hell. And so just know that it can change. And you may not even believe that right now.
There you go.
You may not even believe that
right
now.
That's right.
But if we sit down and talk and develop a relationship, like I'm going to tell you that over and over because it's true. And I'm a living testament. If you put the 6 pillars to work I'm talking about, like, your life will change and you will improve your mental health condition. To add to that process of change, you can change and give you that hope. You have to open up. Like, stop bottling up these feelings. Stop feeling like you're going to be judged. Like, you have to open up and express how you're feeling and reach out for relational help, but also professional help. You have to. And your life is too valuable and too worthy for you to not. And so you need to go see a psychiatrist. You need to do therapy. I'm doing therapy right now. I think there's incredible benefits, enduring benefits that can help with that. But you need to seek out medical help and relational help and open up and just express what you're feeling. And so those would be the lasting and parting words I would have to encourage anyone out there listening to this podcast that's struggling with any type of mental health condition.
Well, man, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Coach Ed Show today. If any of this resonated with you, please reach out, comment on our socials, send a DM, download the Coach Edge app. We didn't even talk about that very much, but coachedge.seasonbuilder.org. You can find all the information about the Coach Edge app and all of the resources at Season Builder that we offer. So again, thank you so much, Big D. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next time on the Coach Edge Show.
Thanks, Tyler.